Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Blood Red Sky. Blood Red Sky is a German thriller that tells the story of a woman named Nadia and her son Elias, who are traveling together from Germany to New York City via a transatlantic flight when the plane that they're flying on happens to be hijacked by terrorists. The reason why the two are going to New York City together is because Nadia suffers from a terminal medical illness and she has to undergo a bone marrow transplant that apparently can only be done at a specialized practice in New York City, but these plans end up getting sidetracked due to the terrorists that hijacked the plane. However, what the terrorists don't realize about Nadia is that she happens to be a vampire who's suppressing her powers, and through one event after another she eventually reawakens those powers and attempts to retake control of the plane, while also resisting her primal instinct to feed on the passengers as much as possible. In this sense, the movie plays out like more of a reverse snakes on a plane type of situation, in that the main character happens to be more of a threat than the actual villains are, at least at the beginning anyway. It does have its fair share of cliches from those types of movies in which there's a big threat that's happening inside a small enclosed space of a vehicle, like a plane or a train for example, but it features a pair of compelling lead characters that help make its story a lot more interesting. Nadia was a great character in this movie. She was definitely one of the more sympathetic characters I've seen in a movie in recent years, just based on all the things that she has to juggle throughout this movie's story. She constantly deals with a variety of burdens throughout the story. Her terminal illness, her being a single mother, her being a widow, and on top of that, she has to deal with hiding her vampirism from society while resisting the urge to feed all at the same time. Her struggle with her vampirism in particular is what makes her such a likable character from the outset. She always has to wear a wig, a pair of contact lenses, and a set of dentures wherever she goes in order to hide her true identity and what she really is. Yet despite the evil that lies within her, we the audience know within the first few minutes of seeing her on screen that she has a good heart who's just been dealt a really bad hand at life, and her struggle with her vampirism in this movie as a result is what made me want to root for her and see her journey through to the end. Her son Elias was also a surprisingly decent character as well. I'm not usually a fan of child characters in adult-oriented stories simply because they're not always written that well. They mostly come off as spoiled, rotten brats, but in this case I thought that Elias's actor did a great job, and the way that he was written as a character was pretty solid for the most part. He does tend to get a little over his head in certain types of situations and can bite off more than he can chew in that respect, but you can tell that he has a genuinely good heart much like his mother does, and he always wants to help out people around him as the crisis unfolds on the plane. The best trait that Elias has going for himself as a character is how he's able to see past his mother's vampirism and recognize the humanity behind the monster. In fact, it could be argued that what's left of Nadia's humanity is present within Elias himself, and thus he serves as a consistent reminder of what she is fighting for. As far as the rest of the movie is concerned, it's no secret as to what its main selling point is. The true entertainment factor comes in the form of the action sequences that take place between Nadia and the terrorists trying to vie for control over the plane. These action scenes usually take place in close quarter, almost claustrophobic situations, which makes it hard for the terrorists to try and find wiggle room in order to escape from the vampire. And thankfully, due to its R rating, this movie takes full advantage of a vampire's need to feed on blood. So as a result, these action scenes usually end in a total bloodbath. I also have to say that the special effects in this movie were really well done, especially for a movie that wasn't made in Hollywood. There's very little in the way of computer-generated blood, and the makeup effects that are used to portray Nadia's vampirism were just awesome. The emotional weight behind this movie's story, however, is by far the best thing that it has going for it. It's what makes Blood Red Sky stand out from the pack and keeps it from being another mindless monster movie. I was truly invested in the relationship between Nadia and Elias as characters, as well as the relationships that they forged with other characters on the plane in spite of the events that were going on around them. I wanted pretty much every character in this movie to make it through and survive, save for the terrorists, of course. Despite all of these wonderful things that this movie has going for it though, there were a number of small issues that kept coming up throughout that affected my overall enjoyment of the movie to a small degree. The biggest problem that I have with this movie is that it opens with the ending, or at least most of the ending. I am never a fan of when a movie does this, especially a thriller like Blood Red Sky, because the whole point of watching a thriller is to be kept in suspense and guessing what's going to happen next. And whenever you're given most of the ending right from the get-go, it pretty much tells audiences exactly what they're going to expect, thus getting rid of most of the suspense. I was also disappointed by the lack of lore behind the vampirism in this movie. There's just not a whole lot of information for us to go on. There are like one or maybe two scenes that give a very basic explanation as to how Nadja became a vampire, but aside from that, we're never given an idea as to how this movie's version of vampirism came to be in the first place. The few bits of lore that are present in the movie are revealed in brief flashback sequences which interject the rest of the events that occur on the plane, and personally I found these flashbacks to be very distracting from the main plot. The movie would have benefited a lot more if it had collected all of these flashback scenes and basically made that the beginning of the movie as opposed to showing us the ending twice. Overall, Blood Red Sky is a solid plague thriller. It does have problems with pacing and certain decisions that are made with its story, but they never really affected my enjoyment of it. If you're looking for a horror thriller in the same vein as Snakes on a Plane and Train to Busan that has some real emotional weight behind it, you definitely can't go wrong with this movie. While there are some things about this movie that I wish were done differently, its compelling main characters help me to mostly forgive these flaws, not to mention that its great special effects and violent action made it a bloody good time. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Blood Red Sky. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Mexican comedy Bankrolled. Bye-bye.